Hey everyone, and welcome to our age group quarterfinals preview show. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. If you like listening to us chat about CrossFit news and everything that's going on in the sport, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Today, we have our sports analyst, Tommy Marquez, here to help me break down the age group qualifier quarterfinals programming. And Tommy, you've already tackled some of these
Yeah.
workouts. You did individual, you're doing age group now. How have they been so far?
Well, I think you placed the subjects in the wrong place. I think the workout tackled me because I've already done number 2 and I made some clear mistakes, but we can talk about that in a second.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. But when just like looking at all of the programming so far, maybe even a little bit of comparing it to individual quarterfinals, what are your first thoughts on some of it?
I actually really like it. I've kind of kept pouring back and forth. I think there's some elements that are very unique to the age group quarterfinals that add a little spice factor to it. Some of the implements like a heavier dumbbell. I think
Mhm.
the workouts allowed for a broader spectrum of options based on the different age groups, which I think is a really unique element to the age groups that needs to be factored in. I still think that some of these workouts have plenty of teeth on them for people to really kind of pour in. And what I liked is there are some definite clear themes between individuals and even though they may look or be executed differently, there are some tidbits in terms of like I can see this showing up. These movements tend to be generally paired together, or these are some of the skill sets that are being involved and that are being used to make, whether it's having a compound effect later on or to throw a wrinkle into the programming weekend as a whole.
As somebody who did individual and is doing age group now, I'm sure you're happy to see different programming and not just repeating the same workouts.
Oh yeah, I mean it was great, and I that was one of my pieces of feedback from last year was like, hey, I
Mhm.
think it would be great a step forward in having unique programming, being able to differentiate between the two, and also it's incentive for people to do both, right? Like
Mhm.
for myself as someone that has been doing CrossFit for almost 14 years now, I'm always looking for ways to like test myself in new and creative ways. And there are elements of test and retest that always need to be around. But for something like this in competition, it definitely gets me more excited to try some unique tests and find new avenues of ways to test myself as well. So I was pumped to see it. And for me personally, some of these workouts are just a little bit nicer on some of my old bones.
Yes, they are. I did see that pistols were back though, so you might need an extra warm up for those.
Only 20. I can deal with 20. There's only 20.
All right, well, let's start at the top. Let's take a look at workout number one. It's 3 rounds for time, 20 toes to bar, 20 alternating dumbbell snatches. And as you mentioned, weight is heavier. It's 50 for the ladies, 70 for the men, time cap of 10 minutes.
Yeah, I love the heavier dumbbell wrinkle here. I like sticking with what I would consider large sets of toes to bar for the average athlete. Some of the elite athletes may be able to, rip off 20 toes to bar unbroken, but I think the 60 toes to bar total as the total volume is a nice piece. It's a very clean presentation as far as a simple CrossFit couplet.
Mhm.
You have some midline, you have some pulling from the floor with the dumbbell. I think there's, especially with a heavier dumbbell, the little pieces like the transition between, hands, while it's not paramount, it is an element of the workout, right? You kind of have your cadence and your rhythm for how you move through a dumbbell and switching hands. And then when you get to those heavier ones, for some people, if you don't have that strength in your back pocket, or it's going to be more of a struggle for you, you got to be more prudent in how you switch and be more attentive. And it's not just grip and rip. So, I think, this rewards people who are obviously tremendously strong, but also have the skill set and midline stability to be able to do so for, big chunks. And I've talked to some people already and they have said, hey, the dumbbell is heavier than you think. And
Mhm.
the toes to bar, the sets pile up quicker because this is going to be fast, right? You're going to have people rip off the first 20 unbroken, get through the dumbbells, and then suddenly the red line starts to creep a little bit closer to you. Just because more often than not, unless you're training big sets of toes to bar, this will get spicy.
How are you going to break up this workout?
Ooh, so I'm lucky in that like the dumbbells feel pretty good for me. I've done a ton of work with 70-pound dumbbells just in training, and it's just
Mhm.
been a byproduct of what we've been working on. Um, I also, surprising for my size, like, I'm a big guy, 6'3", 220.
Rig
Uh,
shaker.
yeah, oh yeah. I'm decent at toes to bar. My grip strength has always
Hmm.
been good, and I've always had a decent kip as far as like I got these long old legs I like to get swinging, and so toes to bar are pretty nice for me. I'm thinking of going 12-8, 12-8 with just a quick break, and then maybe trying to hold on for the last round and see what I
Yeah.
got. For me, the hopping off the bar, 1, 2, 3, kind of hopping back up and hitting another 8, a 3-second or so break is worth the cost of potentially going out too hard and slowing down and maybe like the dumbbell and being able to attack the dumbbell a little bit more confidently for me. So that'll be my strategy. And then I really do well when if I get to the towards the end and I feel like I have just a little bit more in the tank than I want, and I can shoot for the moon with something like a big set of toes to bar.
Mm.
And which is what happened in event 2, but I didn't feel as good at that point. But yeah, that's going to be my plan.
Well, now we are going to move on to event two. Let's take a look. This is the one that Tommy's already done today. It's 4-time 50 overhead squats, 40 bar facing burpees, 40 back rack walking lunges, 30 bar facing burpees, 30 cleans, 20 bar facing burpees, 20 single leg squats, pistols, 10 muscle ups, weight for the barbell, 65 for the ladies, 95 for the men. Time cap 20 minutes. Tommy, what happened with this one for you? How'd it go so far?
Okay, so first mistake. One thing to always do when you want to exercise well and fast is to fuel yourself. So
Oh
I woke
no,
up.
Tommy!
I woke up,
You've
ate
been
breakfast.
CrossFitting for 14 years. Didn't you say
I never said my mind was that sharp.
that? Okay.
So I had breakfast at 7:30, like I normally do. Started going about my day, packed my lunch, my lunchbox, everything like that. Got distracted, rushed over
Oh,
to the gym to get this one in the time frame that I could get it in with some of my friends that were doing it with me. And I'm starting to warm up, getting through everything. I wanted to do this workout first because I feel like the volume of toes to bar just in general, shooting for big chunks could be a little bit prohibitive in terms of the interference on the midline for the rest of the way. And so I
yeah.
wanted to do this one first because if I felt fresh with fresh legs, all that stuff, I just felt like I would do better. And I'm warming up. I'm like, I feel all right. I feel all right. And then I get through the round of 30 burpees and I get through 10 and I just start to tank. And I can just feel myself like
Oh
just
no.
melting. I'm like, man, why do I feel this way? Like, what is wrong with me? I finished the workout. I go over to get like my post workout shake and I open up my lunchbox and I realize I haven't eaten any of the food that I've prepared for the day. Didn't have my lunch,
Oh
didn't have my
no.
snack. And I was like, well, that's why, you big dummy. And I didn't eat anything. And I did it at 2:30-ish PM
Okay.
Pacific. So, we're looking at 7 hours almost at that point that I hadn't eaten anything. And that for a guy of my size, I need a little bit more in that. But
You had
yeah,
no
that was
hunger cues or like
I do,
nothing?
I don't. I actually don't get like huge hunger pains. Like it's more of like I see food, I'm like, oh yeah, I can eat. And I don't get like really big hunger pains.
Oh.
So
Wow. I go like 3 hours and I'm like, when's my next meal? I need
yeah.
more food.
Oh man, yeah. Maybe that's something wrong with me. But I mean, the whole time though, I was very impressed with how the workout was. It's like you look at it on paper, it's this big chipper. Um, there's more. The burpees are a much bigger factor than I thought. I think naturally our eyes tend to gravitate to the varying movements, right? It's like, oh, overhead squats, back rack lunges, cleans, pistols, muscle ups. So that kind of takes our attention. And then you
Mm,
get into it and you realize like that's 90 bar facing burpees.
yeah,
And
that's no easy feat.
you're doing, you're doing 50 of them after 90 reps of lower body focus work. So like the overhead squats, the back rack walking lunges. And to me, that taxing of the legs pulls a lot of energy out of you. And then being able to do a big gross motor movement like a bar facing burpee with your legs kind of zapped. To me, I was like, okay, you got me. Well played, CrossFit. Yeah, you put one over on old boy. But overall, I felt like the progression of it allowed me to kind of reset with each movement change and really focus on that. And it was just really fun in the end. Like it was really fun. And like I said before, like I there was still room for like some moments to be celebrated. Like, I was doing this workout with a friend of mine who is like working her way back from having a kid, and
Oh, how
muscle
fun.
ups have not been something she's trained, and she was
Hmm.
finished under the time cap, was able to break the muscle ups how she wanted, and it was a great time. My goal at the end was to give myself a shot at doing the 10 on 10 muscle ups unbroken, and I did, and I was pumped. And even though I was maybe less than stoked with my time because I felt like poop, but it I there's little things to celebrate in that. And I think some of the people who have a good engine, have good lower body endurance, are going to absolutely shred this one.
And I just want to point out that we're seeing more consistency across the board with the standards, the same as we saw earlier in the season. The athlete does not need to use a 2 foot
Mhm.
takeoff, but both feet they must be off the ground as the athlete passes over the bar. So similar standard, at least some consistency. So you didn't have to really change up the burpees too much
Yeah.
from individual to age group.
And I would highly recommend people get a nice long warm up on this one. Like, get
Mm.
really prime your burpee technique for that. Um, it wasn't necessarily like, sometimes when you have other compounding factors, your legs get really heavy or your chest gets really kind of blown up from just kind of collapsing to the floor and really kind of pushing that negative element of it. I would just say, especially with that set of 40 and 30, really nail down, hey, this is my foot cadence, this is my jump cadence, this is my breathing cadence, and get it down and do a couple sets of maybe 10, 12, and with a little bit lower heart rate, a little bit medium heart rate, and then really get used to that to kind of prime that pump, because I didn't do that and I really would have benefited from that. And it was something I just overlooked in kind of my rushed preparation for it.
Sure. And is workout two the only one that you've done so far?
Only one I've done. So I'm
Okay.
gonna do workout one in the morning tomorrow, along with the total, and then go from there.
Ooh, fun. I'm excited for the total. I can't wait to see some of the numbers that people put up on that.
It's gonna be fun. I'm really stoked.
Okay, moving on to workout number three. This one, I think this would probably be my least favorite, but for a tall man like you, Tommy,
Oh,
this this looks like it's made for you with as many rounds as possible in 10 minutes, one rope climb, two shuttle runs. Each are 50 feet shuttle runs, two rope climbs, four shuttle runs, three rope climbs, six shuttle runs, four rope climbs, eight shuttle runs, etc., etc. What's the
mhm.
strategy now that you know what the rope climb shuttle run combination is like? No wall balls this time, but this is kind of a rude couplet
Oh, maybe
for
for
me,
you.
for a five
Uh
foot one person.
I will say this before, and I didn't mention on the previous workout. I do want to pay a quick homage to the 55 plus divisions that do weighted step ups. I really, really like that as an adjustment
Oh
for
yeah.
single legged squats. Adding some loading, making sure you still get the single leg work, but maybe not putting the stress on the joints and things like that, and
Hmm.
being mindful of the stage that the broader piece of this athlete cohort is dealing with. So, but yeah, this one, I mean, honestly, this is just, to me, all it is just run hard.
Oh,
For me, it's
I
all
never
just
want to
run
hear
hard.
that.
Yeah, that's as and there's almost like incentive to me for like, you know, when anytime you can run into a rope climb. I
Yeah.
love it. Like you get this like little jog in to where you almost like gather and vertical leap into it. Remember, everyone, a shuttle run is two lengths. A shuttle run implies down and back. Read the rules, please. Let's not confuse this one. Um, it's
Yes,
it's just
please.
being honest in your pacing for the shuttle run. From the individual quarterfinals, it's really easy to fall off, and it's really easy to convince yourself to pull back on the shuttle runs because, oh, I need to gather energy for here, I need to slow down, I need to jog, maybe I can even walk for a few steps. Um, but I think efficiency over the entire time frame, because it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
In the broader scope of this, it's kind of medium to short, I would say, relative to some of the other ones. And at some point, you're going to get into, the round of 5, 6 rope climbs. And just doing those rope climbs and having the turnaround is going to be plenty enough time to kind of readjust for the next shuttle run and stay honest with your pacing. It's very similar to the burpee pace. Like, practice a couple different rope approaches, fresh, tired, and kind of in between, because there are a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, I can get up there in 2 pulls. And then they get tired and then it becomes 3 pulls, or it becomes three and a
Mm.
half pulls, or 2.5. Go through those progressions. Do a couple reps at each to make sure that you're not kind of caught off guard. Because I think a lot of times, especially if you're not an elite athlete, you get up there and you're like, oh, I have that half pull left, and it becomes really more of just like a mental drain and kind of a mini energy suck. And for in this workout, the rope climbs should just be second nature.
Right. And I think even with the time domain versus what we saw for individual, that we're going to see people's shuttle run speed be a lot faster than the other workout where we had a 25-minute time cap. There were all of those wall balls that could really blow up your quads, where this, you're pulling with those arms and then you're running with your legs.
Well, and one thing I didn't say from before is that, like, in the individual quarterfinals, like, warm up, doing some hinging work. So like,
Mm,
make sure you hinge at the hip,
yeah.
do some back warm up, because a lot of people had their backs blow up from bending and touching. Yeah, and it's just
Yes.
not something. It's
Yes.
just not something you're used to doing, right? So, if you can work on facing the same direction every time you turn to
Mm,
touch, right? That way you're working both sides of that hinge and not just favoring one. Work on your foot cadence for the shuttle run. How many steps does it take me to get to the point where I'm going to gather and turn around? Work on your footwork for the turnaround too. A great example, and I saw some clips out there of Con Porter during the team quarterfinals. He had a beautiful shuttle run technique. Remember, he's a rugby player. He's spent a lot of time doing shuttle runs and running wind sprints, and he had a beautiful little almost kind of crow hop into your turn, where you land in an athletic position with feet staggered but both behind the line, tap, and you're loaded to ready to go. Work on those little elements. There is some technique to the shuttle run. It's not just run past the line,
yeah.
turn around, let's go the other direction. There is some technique to it, and you can definitely pick up some time. On this workout. I was fortunate. I was, training with one of my gym mates who did the workout alongside of us, and I'm gonna roast her a little bit. My friend Courtney Rousseau. I picked up time on her on the turnaround, and I,
Oh.
I let her hear it a little bit. So she got me back later. It's all right.
It all balances out. How tall is she?
5'9", 5'8".
Oh, okay. I was gonna give her like, you're shorter. You shouldn't expect to beat Tommy.
I mean,
Still
she's not.
shorter, but
I mean, she's not like Danny DeVito or something
no,
like that.
you do what you can. But that's gonna
Yeah,
be a good
it's
one.
true.
I'm excited to see people's times on that and actual video of maybe some techniques that people picked up from doing the shuttle runs the first time versus now.
Mhm.
Moving on. Oh, this is my favorite. I wish we had the CrossFit total in the individual, but the age group is seeing it. Total load, back squat, press, deadlift. Same format as for individual. We have that 30-minute time cap. It's going to be pretty impressive, some of the numbers we see.
Yeah, I mean, this is the OG CrossFit lifting benchmark. We've seen individual athletes do it before.
Hmm.
We've seen variations of it throughout the years at the games for the individuals. I personally, it's so funny. Our gym was going through a kind of a powerlifting esque cycle during the individual quarterfinals. So my back squat, my deadlift, my press all felt really good, and then during this quarterfinals, we have since switched and pivoted after some transition weeks into more Olympic lifting, complex type stuff. So I'm like, man, why couldn't those orders have been switched and kind of fit in with what my gym was going? But beggars can't be choosers. I am. This is always great because um, for some of the masters athletes, I think a lot of work, and I could be wrong on this. It's fun to pull heavy, to back squat, to press.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I think some of the skill components for the older age divisions um, are more apt to be tested under heavy load, like max load, in the next rounds and semifinals and um, in games. I think at this stage for age groups, primarily, we're more. I think that this kind of signals that maybe we're a little bit more concerned with just raw strength capacity here, and then we'll start to add the skill component for like Olympic lifting, maybe later on. That's just kind of like the vibe I got. But it's also like how many? When was the last time you did CrossFit Total?
I honestly don't think I've ever done the CrossFit Total.
Exactly. So this is a nice reminder sometimes for some of the classic CrossFit benchmarks. We didn't get
Yeah.
a repeat in the Open this year, right? We didn't get anything that I would say was like a classic CrossFit benchmark. We got the other total for individual athletes, and the programming I would say was a little bit more aggressive for individuals. The
Hmm.
programming is less aggressive here, and then we get another 3-part lift that I think is a little bit broader strength test overall instead of just doing a single lift. So it may not be everyone's flavor, but I'm excited to do this one again because I haven't done the CrossFit Total in quite some time. And,
You're
and
doing
remember, you
all of
have to.
this lifting.
I know you have to do it in order too. Remember, you have to do
Right.
back squat, press, then deadlift, and read the rules on how that progresses and that works. As far as one barbell, once you're done with one, you can't go back to the other, and so on. So it's important to read the rules on those.
Right. And
What
especially
what are
with
you hoping for? I want to
what,
hear Lauren Kalil's numbers. What would you be shooting for here?
back squat, I would be shooting for 295.
Whoa!
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I think a lot of people just shriveled when you said that. That's awesome, Lauren.
I love me some back squatting. Tommy, I would squat every single day if my coach would allow it. But we've got we've got bigger priorities than just continuing to drive up my squat. My press probably somewhere between 115 and 120,
Mhm.
and deadlift maybe 330.
I was gonna say, if you do not pull more than you squat, I would be very angry with you.
That's always the goal because honestly, for a long time, my back squat was really close to what I pull from the floor. So we spend a lot of time with posterior chain work.
My back squat is nowhere near my deadlift. It is nowhere
But
near.
that's good. The deadlift should be much bigger than the back squat.
Oh my god. They're not even in the same area code. If my deadlift was calling a Postmates order to my back squat, he would get charged a distance fee. Like that's how
Oh
far apart they
no.
are.
What's your back squat?
Uh, if I if it's a good day, maybe 385 ish. So yeah, it's not my best lift. I'm happy with it. I just don't like squatting, and yeah, my deadlift is higher than that. So
You love that hinging.
yeah, yeah. It would be fun. I have some tempered goals for this. I usually like to set like an attainable goal for this, and then
Yeah.
if I get it, then take one shot at like shooting for a PR, almost like an Olympic weightlifting meet when you have 3 attempts.
Well, and
But
that's what I really like about this versus the individual programming is that you do only get 3 attempts on paper. Once you call that third one, that's it. If you have more in the tank, kind of like too bad, we got to move on. You have to really plan out what you're going to do for each lift, which I
mhm.
like it. There's more strategy behind it.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Last but not least, number 5, a repeat of the 2014
Hmm.
AGOQ workout 3 rounds for time of a 50-calorie row, 15 handstand push-ups, 50 double unders, time cap 20 minutes. Here's our repeat, Tommy.
Yep.
We have a repeat for the year.
Oh yeah, we reload a 2014 AGOQ workout, one that I very much like and have done a couple times.
Oh yeah.
back in the day that we would just, get worked into programming, but for me, and it kind of just depends on where you're at, right? Like for me as a larger athlete, I love rowing, I love double unders. Um, the handstand push-ups at 15
Hmm.
and kipping is is right at that amount where like I can do them unbroken, and the distance between the movement. So like with a 50-calorie row and a set of double unders on either side of it, like is enough time for my shoulders to recover. So
Mm.
I love it. This is going to be really fun to do. It's not often you hear me say I love a handstand push-up workout, and I think it's going to be fun for sure. I think it's a
What?
nice comparison piece because we are 8 years removed from the first time it was programmed.
Well, and so what is your goal with this? Like, how big of a PR are you looking for a PR, knowing that like it's been a minute since you tested it?
Honestly, my sole focus on this one is making sure that I do all sets of handstand push-ups unbroken.
Hmm.
So for me, like my natural pace in the first round isn't like I can go hard enough and know that I'll be able to do that first one unbroken just because the fatigue hasn't piled up. But
Hmm.
then it becomes to making sure that uh that second one I'm able to get unbroken, and then I think I'll be able to rally for the third no matter what. But keeping a steady row pace, making sure I if I can keep what my average row pace is as far as like pacing and calories per hour is, that's really all it is. It's just for a lot of people, the 50-calorie row is going to take up a majority of the time.
Sure. What are some
So,
of the best times you think we're going to see with this one?
oh man, there is going to be some people that absolutely blitz this one. I'm trying to think what the best time in 2014 was. Um, let's see. We had some 7 minutes. No, we had some 10 low tens. I think we'll see some people break 10. Um,
Wow.
let's see. It really comes down to if so, I really think we'll see a top time from a bigger athlete who's proficient enough at the handstand pushups, right? Being able to really kind of spin that turbine on the row. I'm gonna say what's interesting, and I'll kind of go through my thought process here, is like there are certain things
Hmm.
where I feel like there stands to be a tremendous improvement from the baseline community as far as what elite performances look like. And usually it has to do with loading and skill under fatigue and loading under fatigue. And I don't really think this has any of that. The components of it, I think, are largely come down to metabolic conditioning. And I think for some areas in a 3 round workout, 10-ish minute range, I think a lot of times we're a lot closer to what maybe our peak capacity is in that range. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a ton of times beat the top times out there. But it's almost like there's a certain point where you kind of like almost cap your capacity for Fran, or you almost kind of cap your capacity for Grace, right? Because you can only just move the
Hmm.
bar from point A to point B unbroken so fast.
Yeah.
Um, so I think the top time for the men's 40 to 44 division back in 20, uh, there was one that didn't look legit. Um, that was 9:16. I think he put it in wrong, but Dominic Adam had a 10:02, and I think we'll see some people beat that. With the 35 to 39 division, I think we might see a low 9, which is at least a minute. If someone does 8, you think about, you would have to row 50 calories in 6 minutes, 150 double unders at 2 a second is 75 seconds. So that puts you at a minute 15. So that's 7:15. And then 45 handstand push-ups in just over a minute with breaks in between and transitions. If you're sprinting full speed, we could see some eights. And that's
Wow.
that's cooking.
That was some good math. I'm impressed by if any athlete does that, but right now I'm more impressed at that math skill.
I,
I would need like a whiteboard to like write everything down, carry the
oh
one.
man, it would look like a beautiful mind up there. Like
Yes. Exactly.
Uh, I can thank my time working on a farm at a farmer's market stand, doing quick math with change.
Oh, fun fact about Tommy
Yeah.
Marquez. Okay, so looking at all five of these workouts, which one do you think is going to be like the closest? That's going to be just a couple of seconds between points on the leaderboard.
I think it has to be workout one. Um, I think that's just in general going to be the fastest. I think uh, I think we'll see some really close times for workout five, but overall, I just think the row provides a little bit of a gap there. There's just going to be some top athletes that aren't going to drop from the pull up bar, and they're going to grip and rip the dumbbell, and it's going to come down to
Hmm.
just how fast can is the rep separation between the dumbbell hitting the floor and it getting up overhead, and the transitions in between. So I think that one is going to be the closest. I like that we're kind of fast out of the gate. And I like that the finale is maybe a little bit of a mix up here. We're used to seeing the
Yeah.
shorter finales, and we've kind of flip flopped it.
It's the last weekend of quarterfinals, the last stage of this stage.
My last chance to be an athlete. So
You never know, Tommy. You never know.
hey, everyone gets their Disney moment once in a while, right?
Well, Tommy, good luck this weekend. We can't wait to see your scores and name on the leaderboard. Thanks for helping break down these workouts. It's going to be an exciting time, and we will have a recap show early next week.